Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. Tonight we have a lot to go over tonight. Let's start over at thegrandsolarminimum.com. We'll take a look at our website where you'll find all of the links for tonight's show right here at thegrandsolarminimum.com. And just some crazy footage, but it's nothing new. Over the last 7 to 10 days, we have seen pictures like this all over the Midwest, central part of the United States. So it just seems like this is just continuing over and over again. But let's get right into it real quick. Space weather news: solar wind speed sitting at a 432.4 kilometers per second with a density of 9.9. Let's go ahead and check it out on our space weather section here at thegrandsolarminimum.com. Take a look at KP indices, slight activity up to a 3. Again, solar proton flux is quiet. The sun is blank once again. And looking at our sun in motion here, the SDO, we do have an Earth-facing coronal hole that is turning away from Earth now. And what we see in the very far part of the eastern limb are a couple of bright organized spots. We will keep our eyes on those to determine whether those become official sunspots or not, as we have seen spotless days now over the past, let's see, we'll get the information straight from SPACEWEATHER.com, 9 days in a row without sunspots, and this is now a 83 days for 2019 on days without sunspots. KP indices, like I said, was at a 3. We are expecting an increased amount of solar wind. The speeds will be elevated sometime around May 29th from these coronal holes that we see here, located here in the image at spaceweather.com. Let's take a look at our TSI reading for May. I believe this is the 17th. Came in at a 1360.64. So really, ever since we had the big dip in TSI and the missing data, which is very confusing, but really since the big dip, we've kind of seen readings stay consistently in the 0.6 values. So no real big changes. And before we get into tonight's broadcast, let's take a look at the live radar right now. Parts of Chicago, get ready. Some rough weather ahead. Peoria, you're on the path right now as well. Kirksville getting it now. Kansas City is getting out of this, but the amount of rain that was falling during a live shot on Weather Channel was incredible. Puddles up to your ankles easily, and the parking lots overflowing onto the sidewalks of this one particular place they were located at. And the one thing that went through my mind was how familiar these puddles are starting to look and all around us. And I know most of us probably can say we've seen and witnessed these heavy downpour rains of how much we've had over the past several days. It doesn't take much for it to puddle now, and it doesn't take much for it to flood. And I think even up parts of where I live, people are not used to seeing this kind of rain falling that quick, and seeing, especially when your sidewalks and streets are completely underwater, which we've already witnessed at least once in the past 2 weeks. Familiar pictures all over, though. Jam-packed with information tonight, guys. Let's lead with this story in Ohio. DP&L, over 400 out-of-state crews to help in addition to 300 DP&L employees. So, as we know right now, the big tornado last night, a little over 50,000 Dayton Power Light customers remain without power as of 5 p.m. this evening. They say at least 3 EF3 tornadoes hit the Miami Valley Monday night. EF3 tornadoes confirmed in Montgomery County, Beaver Creek, that's in Greene County as well. About 70,000 customers were without power at the height of the storm. The crews pretty much will be working around the clock for sure after this one, but guys, this is just the tip of it. Power outages everywhere, school closures. What's surprising about this storm is I just think that the overnight nature of these things just catch you off guard. And we've been talking about them for 7 to 10 days on this channel. And I think why tonight it kind of hits a little closer to home for me, because this is where I'm from. I've lived there all my life. I've only lived here in New York for almost 3 years now. I've spent my entire life in the Dayton area, Xenia, Beaver Creek, Dayton. Everything that we're talking about tonight, I have friends and family that are affected with this right now. And the damage is incredible. Everyone knows about the 1974 tornado outbreak. Xenia, Ohio, was affected the worst by it. Unfortunately, 33 people lost their lives, over 300 injured. We haven't seen that kind of injury or death reports at this point. Right now, we've only had one confirmed death, and that was in the Salina area. An 81-year-old man was killed by a vehicle that had been flung into his home while he was asleep. Extensive damage after multiple powerful tornadoes hit the Dayton area. Look at this. Dayton, Ohio, getting some love on watchers.news. I've never thought in my entire life that I would see Dayton, Ohio being featured on a worldwide website that talks about natural disasters and climate catastrophes worldwide. This is a very bizarre set of words I'm saying. Folks, bear with me here. I apologize. At least one large and destructive tornado, E3, they're saying EF3 right now, ripped through the city of Dayton. Communities late Monday night, around 11 p.m. Damage surveys are still in progress for at least 3 suspected tornadoes in the area. The first tornado touchdown around 11:07 local time. Tornado emergency warning. The highest weather service issues. National Weather Service called it a life-threatening situation as the tornado swept through a heavily populated area. The second tornado hit about 30 minutes later, around 11:30. National Weather Service Storm Survey has confirmed at least one EF3 with winds up to 140 miles per hour in Beaver Creek, that's in Greene County, Ohio. At least one person was killed in Salina, authorities said. A large dangerous tornado touched down last night in northwest Montgomery County. We are focused on supporting life-saving measures such as shutting down gas lines or locating people who are trapped by debris. I did see on local Miami Valley tweets that there were people trapped overnight in some of these structures. Thankfully, only minor injuries, guys. And we'll leave the video links here. Actually, Weather Nation isn't unfriendly to us. This is parts here. This is Clayton, Ohio, a suburb of Dayton near Inglewood and the Union Township areas, a rural community. So to see this kind of damage, just roofs just rip right off. Again, we've seen this damage for the last 7 to 10 days throughout Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas. I'm probably forgetting a few others. But it really hits home when you see damage footage of your own town, where you're from, where you live. Even if you still currently reside there, it's a shock that you don't want to go through. Lots of structures and buildings are not recognizable anymore. I saw a couple of videos. My son sent me a few videos today, just driving around and looking at all the damage. It looks like a war zone. Here is the actual path here of destruction of these tornadoes, where they think they have 3. We can clearly see that, I believe. I believe this is probably all from the one tornado right here. This is tornado number 2, and this is tornado number 3. Obviously, that's their paths. Obviously, the one up top went the furthest. That's the one that did the most damage. We're talking about cities like Arcanum, very rural, Laura, Ohio, Also a very rural community. So every area where these storms hit, were in decent populations, but nothing dense. Again, these were farming rural communities out here. Pleasant Hill, New Madison, Phillipsburg. On the outer edges of Dayton, you have Englewood, Clayton, Brookville, Lewisburg. Those areas, they're still rural communities. But what's impressive is seeing how much tornadic damage we have in the immediate parts of the greater Dayton area. In fact, let's go ahead and I can tell you right now, just by looking at this map, areas like Riverside, pretty good population there. Shiloh, Huber Heights, just south of Huber Heights. My brother lives in Huber Heights, and about a mile down the road is damaged streets, power poles down. It totally night and day from where he's at. But these are areas down here that we've zoomed in that have a decent amount of people that live in their area and their towns and their cities. The east side, the north and the east side of Dayton, to me, a very dense area. And I'll go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. And a lot of damage in here as well. A lot of these are older buildings too. A lot of older infrastructure, power poles and stuff like that. I know some old army bases, base housing where roofs were ripped off in that community. And what's crazy is that area that we saw that damage, right where I'm pointing my arrow, is right there on the edge of the valley. And, you know, for it to be that close to the top, this area literally is at the top of the hill. Once you go down here towards downtown, this road just becomes one giant hill all the way down to the city. So to see all this tornadic damage just skip past the valley, not go any further south, is amazing and a blessing at the same time. But these areas definitely not used to seeing this kind of activity. Not an EF3. It seems like Xenia has the X marks the spot, no pun intended. And we've seen quite a few tornadoes in Xenia in the 80s, early 2000s. We had a couple different. So, I mean, that area is not unfamiliar with this. But so many headlines to talk about with these storms. And like I said, when you are experiencing it in your own backyard or from an area that you know and love, it definitely opens your eyes up a little bit more, and it's just a little bit more shocking. Again, here's more footage of the Dayton area tornado. Salina, again, that was the most damage, and also injuries with 1 death. So 7 injuries, 3 are serious condition, but not life-threatening from what I understand. And I hate to say it, but once again, we are on the lookout in Ohio, this time past the northeastern part of Ohio into western Pennsylvania. But this time the severe threat is just above the Salina area, right there by St. Mary's, above Columbus, and going across the central, northern central parts of Ohio. And it does appear that our radar is fading out. So tonight, the threat is over for what we hope severe weather across the area that we just suffered it just hours prior. But believe it or not, and we'll talk more about this here in a minute, there is more severe weather on the way to this region. Quickly, let's take a look. Here is a quick look at the 8.0 earthquake that struck in Peru. Just take a look at that. It says it all. Peru was devastated by a magnitude 8.0 earthquake that spread hundreds of miles early Sunday, the biggest in the world so far this year. Buildings collapsed and roads were torn up as the quake hit at 2:41 a.m. in the village of Lagunas in the Amazon jungle, with trembles reported almost 500 miles away, the capital in Lima, as well as neighboring Colombia and Ecuador. Now also, Mari brought this to my attention the other day. Before this earthquake, there was a 6.7 earthquake that was out in Colombia, and nobody was talking about it. And Mari was concerned with it's a strong quake to be that in the middle of the land as it was, not anywhere near the coast. So it was on land, no one's really talking about it. And then we have this powerful 8.0, and now they finally mentioned something in Colombia and Ecuador, but still 6.7 just a couple days before this. While locals posted images of the devastation with people running and screaming into the streets, there were no initial reports of deaths. The president says, "I ask of all citizens to remain calm." The strong Tuareg movement that occurred early this morning was felt in several regions of the country. "We are evaluating the affected areas," he wrote. Local firefighters shared video of a devastation with people wandering the streets. The mayor of Leganes said many residents were too scared to go back in their homes. There's fears of aftershocks. Pop star here was quoted a couple things, but basically, big scare. 8.0, big scare. No serious injury or death were reported, which was the only good news about this story. And here we are talking about Australia, Canberra, or Canberra, however you pronounce that. I do apologize if I butchered your pronunciation here, which, you know, we tend to do that here at the Grand Solar Minimum. But hey, there is a lot of towns and cities and countries and continents and all that good stuff out there. So bear with us, folks. Shivers through the coldest May in 19 years. Those in Australia's southeast have entered the second day of freezing conditions, and it looks like icy conditions are set to stick around for the next few days. Now, before I go any farther, it is winter, or it is approaching winter right now, but it's not quite officially winter yet. So that's the reason. I mean, I'm not trying to justify if there is any kind of misleading sensationalist going on here. But it is still a little bit early for what they're experiencing. It says a mass of polar air following behind a cold front blasted parts of the... Wait a minute. This was okay, sorry about that. Yesterday, Canberra residents shivered through their coldest May day since 2000, reaching a maximum of just 9.1 degrees Celsius. Wild weather, including snow, thunderstorms, and damaging winds, blasted their lower parts of the country's east. Australia's ski resorts have had their first major snowfall for the year, with more to come over the next few days. So, again, like I said, this is heading into the winter season, but still a little early, and they're getting their first major snowfall approximately about 3 weeks early, it looks like. It says Peru received an extra 20 centimeters of snowfall overnight, bringing its total to 40 centimeters, while Thredbo is at 20 centimeters and counting. At least 25 centimeters of snow has fallen in Hotham Alpine Resort in Victoria, and 30 centimeters more expected to fall over the coming days. Meteorologist of Bureau of Meteorology Zhe Wing Chua told News.com more snow is likely to fall in those areas in the next few days. Check this out. Heavy snowfall. Either way you put it, we're looking at a cold and snowy start to Australia's winter. And from what I've been told, whenever you see what's going on in Australia is what it should be expecting in the Northern Hemisphere winter as well, at least in North America. So, not looking forward to the beginning of this winter. So many things, folks, that we've talked about on this channel. Grand Solar Minimum related. What is Grand Solar Minimum? And, you know, how does this have anything to do with anything? And this channel, this website that we have, thegrandsolarminimum.com, we try to point you in the right direction. We give you all the resources, we give you all the evidence, we provide articles, peer-reviewed papers, outstanding interviews, Valentina Zarkova, work of John Casey, David Dilley. By the way, we've got a really special treat. I think I'm going to keep it to myself right now, but you guys will be very excited about some really great stuff coming up, about information getting out worldwide and Zarkova being involved, and that's all we're going to say right now. So, but we will fill you in more as we gain the details, but there's important work to be done in the meantime. This is part of what we've been talking about with cosmic ray influx, and that adding, particulates to cloud nucleation to accumulate more precipitation, snow, rain, you name it, hail. Yesterday, during the storm, or this morning actually, my brother, who lives in Huber Heights, Ohio, checked out his car. He didn't see it last night, but this morning there was little tiny hail divots. The hail is so incredible. He says he's never seen anything like it before. And he instantly told me, he said, as soon as he saw the hail accumulation on the ground. Now, mind you, it's been in the 70s and 80s in the Dayton area. They're in full swing of summer. So it looked like snow was on the ground, he said. And then this morning to see his car completely riddled in hail damage, realizing that the things that I was talking about on this channel, what's funny about, there's nothing funny about this, but what's bizarre for him, I guess, my brother and I got into a discussion a couple weeks ago. He had mentioned to me that none of this worldwide weather stuff mattered to him. It didn't affect his life directly. No big deal. Doesn't bother me, and it doesn't affect me. I get to go to work tomorrow here in Huber Heights, Ohio. You're absolutely correct. But now it's happened in your own backyard. And now you might understand the small taste of what I'm trying to explain to you. And it's not to be fearsome or to scare, but to be prepared. And don't get caught with your pants pulled down around your ankles without a plan, without knowing what to do or what's happening or what's coming next. This channel is simply about awareness. And we have taken a look at the work of people like Zarkova and Casey and compared it to the science that is telling us that what's causing cooling, what's causing the hail increase, the precipitation increase, the snow, records amount, cold temperatures. Sure, we have hot wave. We're still having heat waves. We're baking down in the southeast right now. Parts of Australia were baking too last summer for them. In fact, somebody actually tried to say that the GSM wasn't real because of how hot it was in Australia during their summer. So, before it has to take place in your own backyard, guys, try to pay attention. Try to understand, for those of you who are new to this channel, that what you've been told about consensus science and consensus climate change is kind of just propaganda that's being fed to you. And I know you're probably thinking, well, how can you prove that? And there's tons of examples and issues. Scott and I were talking, a gentleman that gave us the wonderful presentation of the Grand Solar Minimum 101, and talked about how he got a letter from a teacher who teaches chemistry high school in California. And he remembers back in 1996 heading out to a sort of like a workshop for science teachers. And they were pushing global warming, man-made, global warming, man-made. And that's it. I mean, they showed him all these neat little tricks and experiments to do in classes and sent him on back to school to teach it. And I think us here at this channel, we're trying to raise that awareness that, guys, that's not what's happening. And if you continue to pay attention to that narrative, you're going to end up hurting yourself in the future. It could mean the difference between you eating and not eating. And you can take it however you want, but it's the truth. Scott also pointed out another thing alarming about today's exciting news. It's alarming when you have people like Zarkova who are trying to gather people around to get the message out, not just locally, but worldwide. And the vision that she has right now about getting the information out. Guys, this is where I start to feel like that everything that we've done at this channel is leading up to a situation like this, where it's coming together. This is gaining more and more traction than we've ever seen it since we've started talking about this in the last 3 years. And it's good to see the community finally getting some big traction. I know there's a lot of you out there that put in the work. Ice Age Farmer, David Dubine, what's his name? Old Diamond over there. Everybody does
Starman.
something. What's that?
Starman.
Well, of course, Starman. Let me stop right here, guys. I'm getting way off basis here, but I want to say this first of all. I have to publicly announce this. Thank you so much to David, the Starman, aka TSM Solar Observations. There has been so many times that David has brought things to my attention. And not only did he bring it to my attention, but gathered my interest. And I became aware and eager to study this on my own and follow certain things on my own. I have nothing but the uttermost respect and the credit that he deserves. Because, guys, there's a lot of inside work that happens on this channel. A lot of people contribute. But nobody has been there more for us than the Starman. This guy's been here from day one and has traveled this journey with us over the last 3 years. We've had our ups, we've had our downs, but if it wasn't for Dave, I think he was part of the reason why I was able to keep my patience and understand what was going on and realize the really big picture of what was going on around us and what opportunity we had to relay a message out there that we believe that we can relay and translate enough for everyone to understand, not just people with PhDs. So, again, much love to TSM Solar Observations, aka the Starman. Without you, sir, this channel, and like many others who have contributed to this channel, but definitely special thanks to you for helping me along the way of this journey and my understanding on everything from INSO to solar cycles to Milankovitch cycles to just several things that I never would have looked at if it wasn't for you. And again, I can't be more grateful for your guidance and support that you've given Mari and I over the past several years. So again, much love to you, brother, and thanks again. All right, so now that I've gotten all the feelings out, again, this all comes back to full circle, grand solar minimum. And all these news articles that we're sharing with you guys tonight are all correlated with the events that are happening right in front of our faces. Record tie, Arizona, coolest Memorial Day since 1988. By the way, that was a year after coming out of a minimum, the peak of it anyway. Phoenix recorded the coolest Memorial Day since 1988. Today's high hit 79 degrees. That's about 20 degrees below average. Watching this video here, guys, and give it a look when you get a chance. These people were so excited about grilling, about playing softball, about just being outside doing anything outdoors, because usually at this time, it's unbearable. People find other things to do. They want to stay inside. They want to watch movies. They want to hang out in the air conditioning. I'm not going out in 90-degree weather to play some freaking softball with a bunch of guys with whatever. You know, I get it. 79 degrees is perfect. And let me tell you, not only did they feel that in Arizona, but that was the temperature up here upstate New York. And it was absolutely gorgeous. Spent most of the day sitting outside just enjoying the weather. But that's a lot to be said when you're talking about May 28th, 27th, and tying a low-high record. And then this, Flagstaff, Northern Arizona, experienced record cold. Record cold in Flagstaff and several other parts of Northern Arizona set records for the lowest high temperature on Memorial Day, which we talked about, but the low temperature was also the big deal. According to the National Weather Service, the high in Flagstaff on Monday was 48 degrees, 3 degrees lower than the previous record set in 1929 at 51 degrees. Yeah. In addition, Flagstaff also set a record for precipitation on May 27 with 0.36 inches, topping the quarter of an inch that fell on the same day in 1992. Page also set a record for rainfall. This is the most recent cold front series of storms. The Flagstaff area is almost up, 3 inches of precipitation for the month of May. Well above the normal average of 0.55 inches. That's along with an inch and a half of snow. more than double the normal standard. The forecast is expected to get back to normal later this week with highs in the low 70s and sunny skies after a 40% chance of rain tomorrow. Snow, rain, cold, Arizona, May 27th. Grand solar minimum. Sorry, had to be done. Too obvious. Severe weather, more of it, not just in Dayton, but here, look at this. Trees snapped midway. Flooded out streets, flash flooding. This is kind of this was the scene that I saw just about a week or two before Memorial Day here in upstate New York. There is about the similar size hail that we saw in Huber Heights, Ohio last night. Another picture of a supercell. Look at that. Good grief. Excellent for, pictures here, guys. This is Orland Park. More hail. Lots of hail. Tons of hail damage. You know, millions of dollars already, probably billions of dollars in hail damage already this year. Just in the last 15 days alone. Good. Quarter-size hail. That's part of what we saw in the Dayton area. There's a little spin up right there. Again, common pictures that we're seeing almost everywhere across the United States. Not just one location, guys. This is everywhere. Hail and heavy rain pound western Nebraska. Hailstones and heavy rain pound western Nebraska Monday night. Heavy rain flooded parts of North Platte. North Platte has had 3.9 inches of rain since midnight on Sunday. Ogalla has had 2.79 inches. Severe thunderstorm warnings expected to last through midnight last night. Asking people to put their pictures in. While I'm thinking about Nebraska, talking to a GSM contributor, Matt from Nebraska, talking about how much rain he got overnight, the other night, 0.7 inches of rain. The dilemma now is getting the cows out to the pasture to feed on his farm. And the dilemma is that the ground is so saturated that it would be a mess to do it by hoof. And the ground is so saturated that it would be a mess to do it by hauling them to the pasture. So now the dilemma is feeding the cattle that he raises. And we all know what leads after not feeding your livestock. These are real concerns from people all over the United States. The lateness of planting this year is off the charts once again. And I showed Mari a graph the other day that shows exactly how much we're talking about as far as how far behind we are in planting. Guys, we are 8 million acres in planting behind. What state did I show you that was that in? Was that Nebraska? The chart that I showed you. Actually, I can pull that up if my phone's over here. It's probably not. So, but anyway, there was a graph that I'd shown you with crop failure or crops not planted yet. So
probably pull it up.
It's a significant increase. At this point last year, I can't remember exactly the area, but it was only 500,000 acres that was left to be planted in 2018 at this point last year. In 2019, that number grew to 8.5 million acres left to be planted. Other states in the Midwest and the central part of the United States are also affected in that regard as well. But as you can see, this is just the last 24 to 36 hours, guys. To me, the map speaks for itself. Flooding, hail, wind, and a little bit of winter in the backside of this storm. May 27th, 28th. 52 tornadoes, over 52 tornadoes in 24 hours, with more on the way. 10 tornadoes were confirmed in Colorado Monday for a total of 19 on Memorial Day weekend. Colorado. Central U.S. under dangerous cycle of severe weather as deadly storm brings historic flooding. Very important, folks. It's all over the country.
From New York, I'm David Begno. The central U.S. is stuck in a cycle of dangerous storms that may not stop anytime soon. Tornadoes struck again today in Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, and more may fire up tonight. In the past week, at least 15 people have been killed by tornadoes and flooding. Tonight, rivers are rising to record levels, threatening homes and businesses in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. We begin tonight with Omar Villafranca. He's in Oklahoma.
More severe weather slammed the Midwest this afternoon. Heavy rain and...
I can pretty much just tell you that this has been, it's like it's been on repeat for Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois, now Ohio. The flooding in Arkansas, absolutely historic. Just like what we were talking about the other day in the Delta of Mississippi. That one's almost literally forgotten. No lie. Levees and dams almost at their peak capacity. Just watching these interviews taking place with the water as high as it is, and the fact that it's all over the United States. This isn't some third world country that we're looking at, folks. These are people like me and you, like your neighbors, your aunts and your uncles. I mean, we started kind of tracking some of the damage that was being reported in the beginning of 2019 with storms, about how much that was costing. And I'm telling you, we were billions of dollars into it in the first month of the year. Can you imagine where we're at now? At this point in the year, halfway through 2019, it's got to be close to trillions. All the homeowner claims that we're going to see, the vehicle claims. I know my brother, his house didn't have the damage that we see here, but his car definitely will be totaled, and thousands of more will be totaled. Hundreds of thousands of vehicle claims, millions probably. Millions of homes, insurance claims, farmers, insurance claims, crop damage. It blows my mind sitting here talking to you guys tonight, the frequency of this accelerated weather. It has nothing to do with man-made emissions, and we've proved that several times. We've talked about CO2 rising still to this day, and temperatures across the globe have cooled since 2016 by a little over 0.43 degrees Celsius. Right now, we're 0.44 above baseline. And in 2016, after a warmer, stronger El Nino, we were sitting at a peak of 0.88 degrees above baseline. And right now, we are sitting at 0.44 degrees Celsius above baseline. I guess I could turn the volume down a little bit. That might be a little loud. But the relevance of that is that our CO2 has increased. So man has increased, supposedly, or has it been nature? We know it's nature. The volcanoes that continue to erupt, the amount of ash and CO2 that volcanoes put into the atmosphere is a lot more than what man does. CO2 is higher today. Global temperatures are cooling. Now, how's that working out if the CO2 theory is what warms the planet? And all this severe weather, well, that's obvious. We're getting warm temperatures streaming up Gulf moisture into the very cold jets, the cold fronts that we're getting. The atmosphere is colder, much colder than what it usually is. And just in 1 year, look at how much difference we've seen in severe weather outbreaks. We all know that it has to have a fair share amount of cold and warm air colliding for severe weather outbreaks, tornadic activity as well. Our atmosphere is a treasure trove of cold right now. and the warmer and the more moist air that is met with it. I mean, this is the result, on top of the fact that we have an abundance of cosmic rays in our atmosphere, seeding our clouds, our atmosphere, creating more cloud coverage, and more precipitation, more accumulation as well. That's how all this ties in. Man doesn't do this. SUVs don't do this. This has nothing to do with that. CO2 is a trace gas. Just some more pictures around the world. It's hard to find out what part of the country we're in now without looking at the article headline. Millions under flash flood, severe weather expected in large swaths of the Midwest. Yeah, this is for the rest of this week, not just now. Threat of flooding, areas in the central United States on alert for more than a week of extreme weather that has brought with it tornadoes, fierce winds, and heavy rains. Look at this. 261 tornadoes reported just in the last 11 days. Unreal. So not just Oklahoma, Indiana now, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, all underwater. Tulsa getting worse. Evacuations underway in Arkansas. Fully activated its State of Emergency Operations Center on Sunday morning to respond in rising waters. Anticipated continued flooding along Arkansas. Hey, by the way, flooding is expected now to last well through summer. Well, NOAA said through May is now turning into summer. Deadly tornadoes hit Oklahoma. 2 people are killed. A powerful EF3 tornado touchdown in El Reno, about 29 miles west of Oklahoma City, late Saturday. Guess what? There were more funnel clouds spotted today in El Reno as well. So not once but twice have we seen tornadic activity in El Reno, Oklahoma. And it's just like this map that we see right now. The same areas where we see these storms are continuing to get pounded, especially down here in Oklahoma, guys. This is just ridiculous. You guys seem to be getting it the worst. Over and over, front after front, developing severe thunderstorm after severe thunderstorm. Guys, stick with us. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.